Hi, it's Ed from ACCA on behalf of TEC, and today's topic is Manual D. Manual D from ACCA is the book that we look to for proper duct design. It will assist us in designing a system that will allow us to deliver the volume of air in CFM that's required to condition the space, the area, the room, whatever you want to call it, and it'll do so at an acceptable velocity. Now you're asking, Ed, what's an acceptable velocity? An acceptable velocity is one that's not going to require us to turn the TV up every time the system comes on. Another way of saying it's going to allow us to design a system that's quiet, but also move the air at a rate that's acceptable, and we're not going to deal with any issues with losing heat or cooling due to any kind of heat transfer because we're taking the ductwork through, and I use the word aggressive environment, and it's a fancy way of saying, a hot attic or, a cold section of the house. We do all this following the rules, so to speak, in the book, and it gives us limits for how fast the air can go and things of that nature. It's done based off of calculating a friction rate. And one of the things we see frequently in duct design is rules of thumb, where people are going to make up friction rates. And that's something we simply don't want to do. What we want to do is calculate our friction rate following the guidance in ACCA's Manual D, and then we get to use the duct slide. Often referred to as a ductulator, it is a piece of, I'm going to call it technology, which I guess it is, but it's really nothing more than a slide rule, and it allows us to determine what size ducts we need to get the air or the volume of air that we need to go to a space, again, at that acceptable velocity. Are rules of thumb always bad when it comes to duct design? And you're going to see a common theme here where I say, no, not all rules of thumb are bad. Some are, as that second bullet point says, very problematic. And the biggest problem I see without following a specific standard, we can end up designing duct airways that might be large enough to accommodate the volume we need at an acceptable velocity. But what we leave behind is any kind of safety net or reality check to see if our fan has enough starting pressure, which is generally referred to as external static pressure, or after, again, following the guidance in Manual D, we populate our friction rate worksheet. Partway through that process, we'll determine if we have enough available static pressure to overcome the pressure drops in the system. And I'm starting to teach more than I want to in this, what's supposed to be a brief overview of Manual D. But I'd like to think that I gave you just enough of an explanation of what's in Manual D. And if everything I spoke about seems pretty simple, well, then maybe you're on your way to designing good duct systems. If I use some terms or explained a few things that you're not completely on board with, well, we hope to see you in a class learning how to design ducts in the future. And with that, take care. The path to success when it comes to any of the ACCA design series manuals is always going to start off with learning the fundamentals of the manuals themselves. The next step is going to be to learn to use software. There is absolutely nothing wrong with using the design series manuals and manually doing these calculations, but it's tedious, and it's absolutely necessary to learn what's in these books, but software is really the way to do things. There's no changing my mind or many people's mind on that one. And ultimately, if you understand how to do it manually, you'll get good results. Is it a process to learn? Yes. But what you'll find out is repetition will become your friend. And with that, take care, everybody. Hope to see you soon.